Bulat, for the invitation. For me to share the ILO perspective in relation to teaching or training in occupational medicine. And maybe for the medical students, they are not familiar what the ILO does and what is the ILO. ILO actually is a part of a UN family. It's a specialized agency in the United Nations system. And the headquarters of the ILO is in Geneva. This is where I'm presenting. and safety and health is an important work activities for the ILO. So occupational medicine, of course, is extremely important for safety and health in the workplace. Now, if we try to check about what do we mean when we talk about occupational medicine, probably we have many definitions. If you Google on the internet, you know, UK National Health Services says that doctors in occupational medicine work as specialist clinicians and advisors to both employer and workers on the relationship between work and health. So that it really implies a combination of clinical work and the work or the prevention protection of the workplace. Now, if you check the definition given on the website of University of Utah, United States, it says occupational medicine is a subspecialty of preventive medicine concerned with the health, safety, and the performance of workers. Now, if you check the website of American College of Occupational and Environmental Medicine, which indicates that occupational and environmental medicine is a board-certified specialty under preventive medicine that focuses on the diagnosis and treatment of work-related injuries and illness. Wikipedia is often used by many people. If you check the Wikipedia, you will see occupational medicine until 1960 was called industrial medicine. It's a branch of medicine which is concerned with the maintenance of health in the workplace, including prevention and treatment of diseases and injuries. Then if you check the dictionary in general, like the Merriam-Webster Medical Dictionary, this is a branch of medicine concerned with prevention and treatment of occupational diseases. So it's not only a clinical work, but also the prevention part is an area of work of occupational medicine. Now, if you check Collins English Dictionary, it defines occupational medicine, which is another, another term for occupational medicine is called occupational health. So what is the definition of occupational health? It's the branch of medicine that deals with the health of people at the workplace and in relation to their work, to their job. Probably you know WHO and ILO both have a mandate in the protection of workers' health, and WHO and ILO has a joint definition on occupational health, which really aims at the promotion and the maintenance of the highest degree of physical, mental, and social well-being of workers in all occupations, the prevention of diseases caused by work, and the protection of workers against occupational exposure to workplace hazards. So this definition really emphasizes the approach of mutual adaptation, in particular adaptation of the work to the workers, not only to adapt worker to their work, to their job. Now, what is the ILO policy in relation to working environment and working conditions? And ILO consider it is very important that work should take place in a safe and healthy working environment. And the conditions of work should be consistent with workers' well-being and human dignity. Work should offer real possibility for personal achievement, self-fulfillment, and service to the society. So these are the ILO policies in relation to safety and health at work. If you follow the work at ILO this year in June at the 110th session of the International Labour Conference, which is the highest decision body of the ILO, which decided to include a safe and healthy working environment in the fundamental principles and rights at work. You know, previously we have 4 fundamental principles and rights at work, freedom of association, elimination of child labor, and forced labor, and equal work, equal pay, that is elimination of discrimination. And from this year on, from now on, a safe and healthy working environment becoming a fundamental principle and right at work. What does that mean? ILO has a lot of, I mean, more than 190 legally binding conventions in the field of work. But for the ILO conventions, if a member state does not ratify, so the convention does not have a legally binding force. But being a member of the ILO or the member states, ILO has 187 member states, they are bound by their obligation to fulfill the requirements embodied in the fundamental, how do I say, they have to commit themselves to respect the fundamental rights and principle at work, and they are bound by the principles embodied in the relevant conventions. So we have 10 fundamental conventions in the ILO. So now, in relation to safety and health workplace, we have a Convention 155 and Convention 97 now becoming fundamental conventions, and all the member states are busy have whether they have ratified or not, they are bound by the principles embodied in these instruments. So now we talk about occupational medicine. Now, many people may think, you see, this is for the benefit of the workers, but be very clear that occupational medical practitioners, they are at the same time also workers. They can also be exposed to workplace hazard. And in order to be a good doctor in occupational medicine, you are not only required to be very good in clinical work, but also you have to you have to understand or to know the root causes of the disease, so that you can not only achieve a better treatment, but also to prevent the recurrence of similar diseases among people who are working in similar workplaces or similar working environment. When we talk about diseases at work, generally speaking, there are two groups. One is work-related diseases. That means the diseases are, of multiple causes. So work factors only play a role. It can aggravate or deteriorate the process or the development of the diseases. So the workplace causes may not be the major causes or the sole causes. Then the other group of diseases are called occupational diseases. This actually covers two categories of diseases. One is that we have scientific evidence to show a causal relationship between workplace exposure and occurrence of diseases. And the second group really is about those diseases which may not necessarily caused by work, but if they occur during the course of work or at workplace, in some countries, they are considered or recognized as occupational diseases. So the second group of occupational diseases really are determined by the method or appropriate to the national conditions and the practice. So in ILO, we have both mandates for these two groups of diseases, work-related diseases. So essentially, the focus is on prevention. When we are talking about occupational diseases, then there are obligations not only for prevention, but also for treatment, compensation, rehabilitation, and also employment injury benefits. So we know nowadays, even we have rapid development in terms of improvement of working environment and conditions, but still workers are exposed to a variety of risk factors in workplace. They can be chemicals, they can be physical, they can be ergonomic, they can also be biological. So the current COVID-19 is a vivid example. And workers are also exposed to new production approaches to operations or new materials used in production. And we have new patterns of work or employment, not only for migrant workers, we have increased trend of migrant workers. We also have issues in relation to child or labor or to women workers, to the aging working population. We also have people, working with the digital economy. We have digital worker or virtual workers. So the protection of those workers really pose new challenges. And of course, we have to focus our priority in the dangerous industries or occupations, in particular like agriculture, mining, construction, or workers in the informal economy. Now, when we talk about occupational diseases, because if the protection is not adequate, is not appropriate, then workers can be injured or diseased. So since your network is the European Association of Schools of Occupational Medicine, so let's look at some of the European countries in relation to the reported cases of occupational diseases. Now, if we can look, for example, like UK, I don't know if you can read. No, sorry. I think this is UK. Sorry for the problem of showing. I don't know if I can move this. Yes. Okay. Sorry. Yes, I can. Okay. If we say UK, United Kingdom, and France here, they have relatively, UK has a bigger population than France, but UK reported 6,400 in 2015, but France reported 50,000. So, but then if you look at Bulgaria, for example, Bulgaria has a bigger population than Denmark. Then Bulgaria reported 32 cases, but Denmark reported 4,060. So if you look again, like Hungarian, for example, if we have people from Hungarian and Switzerland, Hungarian has a bigger population, about more than 9 million, and Switzerland has 8 million. Then Hungarian reported 277, and Switzerland reported 2,000. So when you look at the figure of reported cases of occupational diseases, you have to be very careful in comparison the statistics in different countries, not only because of the social security system are different, and the capacity to make detection is even diagnosis is different in different countries and linked to many factors. Which means if you see a lower number or even no cases of occupational diseases or injuries, that doesn't mean that country is the best in the world. So the challenge is really in relation to the practice of occupational medicine is that we are lacking data in relation to occupational, the occurrence of morbidities or mortalities of occupational diseases and injuries. So many countries, in particular, developing countries, they don't have the technical capacity. They don't have enough doctors, qualified, well-trained. They don't have the equipment. They don't have the facilities to make appropriate diagnosis. And many countries, they don't even have an appropriate list of occupational diseases. And many workers, they are not covered by the social security system. That is another issue. And the new trend of employment, like migration, aging population, people working in the informal sector are also issues. And many of the occupational diseases, they have a long latency period that also create difficulties for the detection and recognition. So ILO, in collaboration with, probably you all know that ILO collaboration with the Finnish Institute of Occupational Health, and also with the Singaporean Institute of the Singapore Institute of Occupational Health, and made global estimates in 2017, which indicate that 80% of the deaths due to workplace exposure are due to occupational diseases. You know, we know if there's a occupational accidents, it's normally reported, but for occupational diseases, normally they are not aware or covered, and people even don't know that they exist, or they cause a lot of problem. So this is a figure very old. It was included in an editorial under the author's name, Kofi Annan, the Secretary General of the United Nations at that time. It indicates that every year there are 160 million non-fatal occupational diseases, and the economic cost at 4%. You know, that this is a figure very stable over the years. 4% of the world GDP means what? Really, it means it is bigger than the total GDP of the 54 African countries altogether. So the economic cost is huge. So if a disease is caused by work, from the social justice point of view, they have to be discovered. Even for the practice of medicine in general, they have to be. If you see a patient who is injured, then first the patient has to be diagnosed, and the patient, of course, has to be treated. But if the disease is proven to be caused by work, then the victims have to be properly compensated. These are not enough. You have to take, or we have to take actions in the workplace so that the workers can be protected and prevention measures can be applied in the workplace to avoid recurrence of similar cases among fellow workers. Therefore, when we talk about occupational diseases, really, this is not a clinical term. This is really a legal term. And if you check the or read the national legislation in the field of world of work or labor laws or labor regulations, in many countries, they have a legal definition on occupational diseases. And in the ILO, we have a convention on employment injury benefit, a convention. And this convention really defines what benefit the workers should have if they are injured or diseased due to their occupational exposure at the workplace. And this convention has a list of occupational diseases that was updated in 1980. And from the ILO perspective, ILO really hopes that member states can strengthen their capacity in the detection of occupational diseases, and how you can strengthen the capacity, training in occupational medicine, training qualified occupational health physicians and other practitioners are really a starting point. So your work, your network is really important to promote this activity, to strengthen the training and the teaching in occupational medicine. Of course, we have to improve the capacities of occupational health services, for example, like health surveillance or monitoring of working environment. And of course, you know, to regularly update the national list of occupational diseases. And from the ILO perspective, ILO really emphasized the rules of regulations standards in relation to safety and health workplace. So ILO has about 40 OSH conventions, occupational safety and health conventions, and recommendations, and a lot of tools to implement the convention recommendations. ILO really support member states to strengthen their capacities, including occupational medicine training for the prevention and recognition of occupational diseases. And ILO's activity really is focusing on how you organize occupational safety and health services, how you can organize targeted actions to protect a specific group of workers, or, you know, to target on specific hazardous working conditions or risk factors or hazardous industries or sectors of economies. And one thing I want to, because the time is very limited, I want to share with you is that the ILO's work on the list of occupational diseases. And in 2002, ILO conference established a committee on safety and health at workplace, and this committee worked on a new instruments on the list of occupational diseases. So this is me at that time at the International Labour Conference in Geneva, and this conference adopted a recommendation, which is the recommendation concerning the list of occupational diseases and notification of occupational accidents and diseases. So this recommendation has a list of occupational diseases. The list was revised in 2010, and the list really covers diseases caused by hazardous agents or risk factor. They can be chemical, physical, biological agents, or cover diseases classified by target organ systems and occupational cancer. And we are very thankful to the international experts, including Professor Peter Bullitt, to contribute to this work. This work was published in February this year, which is the ILO's guidance notes for the diagnosis and prevention of occupational diseases in the list of occupational diseases. And this is a mini encyclopedia on occupational diseases. Can be used by the training in clinical in occupational medicine, also by other professionals. And this is the general structure of the guidance notes for diseases caused by hazardous agents. We have, the guidance notes covers the general characteristics of the causal agents, the occupational exposure, the toxicological profile, the main health effects, and diagnostic criteria, and key actions for prevention. Then we have a list of all important reference materials used for the preparation of these guidance notes. And for diseases by target organ systems, and the guidance notes are organized according to the following structure. We have a short profile of the etiopathogenesis or occupational exposure, main health effects and diagnostic criteria, and the key actions for prevention, and references. For occupational cancer, more or less the same structure. General characteristics of the causal agents, occupational exposure, carcinogenic mechanisms, then the key actions for prevention and further rating. In relation to diagnostic criteria, we really focus on two parts. One is clinical manifestation, which include signs and symptoms, then clinical examinations or laboratory examinations. And because the diseases are caused by work are considered occupational in origin, then the assessment of occupational exposure is very important. So the guidance notes give guidance or give important information in relation to how you make a judgment on the history of occupational exposure, how you decide on the minimum duration of exposure and the maximum latent period. So just to conclude my very quick presentation, because I have only 30 minutes, from the ILO perspective, occupational medicine is extremely important, but occupational medicine is not only a clinical work, it's not only the treatment, in the hospitals or clinic of the victim, it also implies prevention measures which have to be taken in the workplace, and also the victims need to be properly compensated. So the ILO guidance note, for example, I just presented to you, that is really to help the member states, in particular those countries which do not have the capacity to make to establish their own criteria for diagnosis of occupational diseases. And of course, the purpose of this tool is not only for diagnosis, but really for prevention, and for prevention as an important purpose. So I will conclude here. So really, I repeat my thanks to the host of the invitation, in particular to Peter. So I don't know if I have time to answer your questions. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, SHENGLI.